and welcome to another segment of Interviews That Matter. I'm your host Raj Mehta. Friends, in this segment, we bring those guests who influence our lives. This includes elected officials, policymakers, heads of major organizations, and other dignitaries. It is my sincere hope that the knowledge brought in by this guest will help our community. Today we have such guest, Mr. Bill Thompson, who is a mayoral candidate from the Democratic Party for the city of New York. Let's meet Mr. Thompson. Thompson.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking time, coming all the way from the New York City.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. First, I wanted to talk about that you have actually genes from your parents. One is your father was a councilman and a senator and a judge, and your mother was an educator. So I guess you are taking both of those genes into one.
Well, absolutely. I'd like to think that I'm the best of both of my parents. But you're right. It's, you go back, everything from my grandparents who came here from the Caribbean back in 1917, up through, and worked hard and, moved to Brooklyn, up through my father, who is still going strong at 88 years old. He's still working 5 days a week, but you're right. My father was a former state senator, as a matter of fact, the first black state senator in Brooklyn's history in 1965.
Wow.
A member of the New York City Council, judge of the Supreme Court, justice of the Appellate Division. And as I said, I am truly lucky and fortunate. He's still going strong at 88 years old, and he's still working 5 days a week.
88?
At 88, he is still working 5 days a week. He's doing arbitrations and mediations as an attorney. He has a few clients. He is doing great. And my mom passed away a few years ago. But my mother was a New York City public school teacher for almost 30 years. And I have to admit, watching her, how much she gave to her children, how happy she was, to watch her children in school do well and watch them learn. I learned so much from them. So, over those years, I've had the chance to be an elected official, like my father was, but also the chance, to be the president of the New York City Board of Education for 5 years and oversee the educational system that my mother taught in.
So you took, how did you get started in public life then? I can say that your mentors were your parents, basically.
And definitely, I think a lot of my role models, the examples that I have were my parents. Even though when I finished college, I didn't necessarily want to go into public service.
Oh yeah?
I always respected it, I admired it. It was something you could always aspire to be involved. But I'm not sure directly in government, and I think it was more taking a job for the summer on a campaign of somebody who was running for Congress, and that person won. And I wound up going to work for that person as a special assistant, and then 4 years later as chief of staff for United States Congressman. But it was there that that I realized that was what I loved: helping people, helping to improve the neighborhood I lived in, and helping to improve the lives for others. I enjoyed that, public service. So it was. I have to say, I was around it as a child all the time. It was something, maybe not being sure when you graduated from college, but after I wound up being involved, that was it. I always wanted to be involved in helping people.
So that internship that you got at the congressman, right? Was it, your father suggested it, or you yourself found it?
No, I will say my father had said, hey, I know you don't know what you want to do. Here's an opportunity for the summer.
Okay.
Would you like to, you can work and go and have, interview over here. I interviewed where it's a campaign for the summer, and things wound up working out. So that really is, at times it's, I always say to young people, you don't always have to know exactly what you want to do.
Right.
And when you get an opportunity, always do the best that you can. So that was the situation. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I got involved in that race. The person I was working for won. I was able to work, in constituent services and helping people. And that became the thing that I loved. That became my passion.
And so you became you were also president of Board of Education for 5 years, right?
Sure.
And most recently, you also announced your plan as a mayor of City of New York, your education plan. So,
look, I think there are a number of things, and education is probably one of the most important issues for the future of the City of New York. So it is, looking and focus in early class size, making sure that we identify children at the age of 5 who need additional support in pre-kindergarten, and making sure we provide that additional support for them, looking at early grades, grades all the way up through all the way up to 3rd grade, making sure that we provide smaller class size, that children can read and perform on grade level by the time they finish 3rd and 4th grade. Making recommendation. We have an educator again who's the chancellor of the New York City public school system, doing so many things, making sure that teachers are really respected again. The teachers, we involve them in a collaborative fashion, looking also at restoring art and music education to a public school system. That's important. Career and technical education. Children may not, when they graduate high school, maybe we should try and get them to go to college, but there's some students who can go to the world of work with the skills they need to succeed. So it's looking at things, and really more than anything, this focus on standardized testing, on comprehension, or at least on standardized testing. They focused on memorization.
Right.
We need to focus on comprehension and critical thinking, making sure students really can perform and understand the theories behind things. I've unveiled a kind of a multifaceted education program, one that involves our teachers, one that brings the parents back into schools again and gets them involved, one that means that we work together collaboratively to move an education system forward.
I think the parents are the best teacher. It starts from home, right? Everything starts from home.
Absolutely.
And which is your perfect example of it. So.
It's the things that you learn at an early age, and it's the models, the role models that you have, to be able to look and say, wait a second, I want to be that. I mean, it's role models don't necessarily have to be a parent or parents. It was for me, but looking at other people, their role models may be different. It could be the teacher in the school. It could be one of the administrators. It could be so many other things. It's presenting different opportunities, different role models. That helps children to grow and children to emulate. Who do you want to be when you grow up? I think that's important.
Right, and we had earlier shows where Dr. Beerworth, from Herrick's High School, Herrick School District rather, he's superintendent, and we were talking about children, like when when we teach our children really right now is like a lot of book knowledge, right? But we don't teach them what is practicality. When they go out, some of the people, they don't even know how to count money. I mean, do you agree, or?
I do. I mean, I think that there are things that we need to bring back to public school systems, and now in New York City.
Right.
But you look at other places. There was one school that I saw that they had, I think the class was called Life Skills.
Okay, there you go.
How to tie a tie.
Exactly.
How to go on a job interview. How to do a resume. How to open a bank account.
Right.
So many things like that. A lot of our young people don't understand. And I think it's important to bring that in. The things that I think make sense. We talk about having healthier young people.
Right.
The fight against obesity and childhood obesity. Well, we should be teaching nutrition education. Life skills. So many different things. How to get credit. How to maintain credit. Those are all skills that are important today.
Right.
We don't teach those in schools.
We don't teach those, right.
No, I think those are things that we really need to create focus on.
I agree. I mean, I think it's very important, because, teaching other things, what these life courses are very important. But that's what they're going to use more, actually.
Yes, and those are lessons that you will use for the rest of your life.
Right, exactly. Now let me turn into that after like a president of New York City Board of Education, you became controller for the city of New York for two terms.
Yes.
Obviously, right? So how was what was your accomplishment in being a controller? I know it, but for our viewers,
I think there were a number of things. And the thing that I'm probably the proudest of, when I ran to be controller in 2001, I talked about making that a different office, having it be an office that worked and fought for the people of the city of New York. Not just somebody who looks at the finances, but someone who's concerned about other areas in the city of New York.
Right.
Controller is the second highest citywide elected official in the city, right behind the mayor.
Right.
Holding the mayor accountable for a number of things, but also speaking out on issues that affect New Yorkers. I was proud to redefine that office so that, as controller, I stood up and fought on issues that were important to New Yorkers. Issues of education, job creation, public safety, housing, you name it. If it was important to the people of the city of New York, I stood up and fought for it. Those are the things, and it was making that office different. So if you look, the business that we did, our New York City pension funds, over $100 billion in pension funds,
Right.
we did a lot more business with minority and women-owned firms, something I believed in. We probably had about $1.5 billion was being managed by minority and women-owned firms. By the time I left, it was close to $7 billion.
Wow.
So you increase that. We have invested more money in affordable housing than ever before in history. That's important to the people of the city of New York. Using our pension funds to make sure it's there for our retirees, definitely,
Right.
but also using our pension funds to improve the city of New York. We supported not just housing, development and growth, economic development in the city of New York. So there's so many things, shareholder rights that we were able to bring about to be able to make work sites across the city of New York safer and better for so many people in different neighborhoods and different backgrounds. Prevent discrimination against those who are, in the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community. Really making sure that we use the office of controller to fight for people. So I'm proud of making sure that was an office that was aggressive, an office that fought for the people of the city of New York. I mentioned a few of my accomplishments, but it was just in the tone, making that a different office and redefining it.
Yeah, and also you made a lot of money for that, so.
Absolutely, we brought back a good return,
Exactly.
for the members of our pension funds.
Right,
That's
exactly.
what you're supposed to do,
Yeah.
because that also lessens the contribution that the city has to make.
Right. So now let me ask you this now, what do you think about the current controller?
John Liu is somebody I had the chance to work with in transition.
Okay.
I think John has done, has maintained and continued in making sure that that's an aggressive office. So I think that John, continues while we may be friendly opponents these days, because John is also running for mayor as I am.
Right.
I think John, I've had the chance to help John in transition. I think he's continuing in the tradition of making it an aggressive office.
Okay, so now, let's come to Mayor Bloomberg, right? Obviously, last election you ran against him and you narrowly lost, I would say.
Yes.
So what would you have done differently that you think that you would have won that election?
I don't know that there were the things that you could have done. I think that, the most frustrating thing in that election was, I was out talking about the issues that face New Yorkers. I was talking about housing and education and public safety, making sure that New York City continue to be a safe city. And I don't know that, and particularly focusing on affordability in New York City, how so many working and middle-class New Yorkers are being forced and pushed out of the city of New York. And I think that to some extent, the media didn't focus on a lot of the issues. That's probably a regret, that they didn't focus much on the issues. It was more about, their belief that Mike Bloomberg couldn't be beat. And the more that you showed them, the more that the public said, wait, we want to go in a different direction. I don't know that we were able to capture the press and get them to understand that this election was far from over. Well, the one thing I've tried not to do is dwell on the past. I do think that I'm a better candidate in 2013 than I was in 2009. I think that, as I said to someone, you may even hear questions a little differently. That, having been out there, having campaigned again across the city of New York, and don't forget, I campaigned across the city of New York for controller twice, and in winning campaigns.
Right.
But also the difference is, there is no focus like the focus in a mayoral election. It's almost like running for president. And I think all of those things created a lot more, you were under more intense pressure. I think I learned from that. I think I did well there, but I also think that I can continue to do better. So the one thing that you want to always look at it, have you grown? And I think that if you don't grow, then you're stagnant, there's a problem. I think I've grown. I think I am a better candidate, more able to hear things a little differently, but also to respond a little differently. So I'm very proud of learning and growing from the 2009 election. But in the end, I'm not sure that there's anything that I could have done differently.
Oh, okay.
I got outspent by a lot. I spent about $9 million in that race. Mike Bloomberg spent close to $120 million. If I had $2 more million, we probably could have pulled it off. But I'm not sure where that money would have come from.
See, that's what I was going to say, that, it's a deep pocket also may have made a difference.
Oh, it made a huge difference.
It made a difference.
I mean, if there was a level playing field, if we both spent $9 million, there's no doubt that you'd be doing this interview with the mayor of the city of New York. But as I said, the one thing I always point out, that's the past. That was 2009, and this election is about 2013 and what direction the city of New York goes in.
Okay, so what are the major challenges that the city of New York faces today?
I think there are a number of things. I think it's everything from our education system and making sure that we really turn that education system around, because right now teachers are feeling demonized, parents are feeling shut out, our students are under pressure just to perform on standardized tests. We need to change that, and I think education is probably the greatest challenge that faces the city of New York. Public safety, making sure that New York City stays the safest big city in America, is something that is important also. We have to maintain safety in the city of New York, and we have to do it in every community. We have to make sure that every community is entitled to safety, and I think we also need to do that against the backdrop of realizing that the way that stop and frisk has been used in the city of New York, it's been misused and abused. When people are stopped because of what they look like and what their background is, there is something wrong there. So we need to change the direction of the way stop and frisk has been used. I think it's important that we continue to push crime down, but we also do it in a new era of community policing. That's important. Affordability in the city of New York. People continue to be pushed out and squeezed out across the city, whether it's rent and the need for new housing, or whether it's just in the policies that the city does as they tax and fine our residents a lot more. We need to change that. And then last but not least, we have to create new jobs in the city of New York. Jobs in the private sector, not just in the big businesses, and I like that. I want to see more big business growth, but small businesses across the city of New York in all 5 boroughs. That's important for the future of the city of New York. So I think the challenges are there. You can see the priorities. It's a question of making sure that as mayor, you continue to lay that path out for the people of the city of New York, and that we move to make New York City even better than before. That it is a city where the mayor represents all New Yorkers, not just wealthy New Yorkers, not just a few. The mayor represents everybody.
Right, yes, yeah. So that brings me to a minority and woman-owned business, which you already touched upon before. Now, there's a significant amount of businesses which is owned by minority and woman-owned businesses in New York City. In fact, so do you think that, they're getting a fair share? Percentage-wise, I think there's a big difference.
Oh, it is. Clearly, it's not even the percentages compared to the population. It's
exactly.
just percentages on any type of real basis.
Right.
If you look at the state of New York,
Right.
and the state of New York under Governor Cuomo's leadership is attempting to get to 20% participation with minority and women-owned businesses.
Right.
And he's pushing it. I know, I've been working with the governor. I chair a task force for him in minority and women-owned businesses to try and help the state get to 20%. New York City does about 3% of its business, 3, with minority and women-owned. It's disgraceful. So, as the mayor, I've talked during the campaign about improving that. As mayor, if the state of New York can do 20%, New York City clearly can do at least 20%
more.
We can do better.
Exactly.
So it really is looking at the billions of dollars that we spend each year, looking at those who do business with us also and saying to them, we need to do better. We need to increase the amount of minority and women-owned business participation, and we need to move in that direction. That's what we need to do. So I've been a champion. When I was the comptroller, I mentioned that. We created opportunities in every level of people doing business with us, those who managed our funds, sales of stock, who you execute your trades through, so many different things. We need to do that in the city of New York again and create real focus. And that focus can only get done if it starts at the top and if the mayor is a champion and an advocate for minority and women-owned businesses.
That's the only way it's going to happen.
Exactly. It starts at the top.
Yep, and it's a good business basically.
It's great business.
It's a good business to do.
It develops jobs in the city of New York. That's what we want. We want to grow a job base in New York City.
Right. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Interviews That Matter. I'm your host Raj Mehta. We are having a conversation with the top candidate for the City of New York, mayoral candidate, 2013, Bill Thompson. Welcome, sir.
Thank you again, Raj.
Now, I wanted to ask you this, that, you've been cross-endorsed lately by Senator D'Amato, and also, Giuliani also said that if it would not have been Loda, he would have probably liked you. So what do you think about it? I mean, do you like it, or what is?
Look, I think that obviously I'm happy to have Senator D'Amato's support.
Right.
He was a great fight, for the state of New York and for the city of New York.
Right.
So I'm happy to have his endorsement, proud to have his endorsement.
Right.
But it's so many other people who have come on board recently.
Mm-hmm.
If you look, everyone from Congressman Jose Serrano
Mm-hmm.
and his son, State Senator Marco Serrano. It's the borough president of the borough of the Bronx, Ruben Diaz Jr., who's a great champion for the Bronx,
Right.
who's bringing the Bronx back in a very strong fashion. It's everyone from the head of the chairperson of my campaign,
Right.
Mayoral Tisch,
Right.
who's the head of the State Board of Regents. But Meryl's a great New Yorker,
Right.
somebody who I am honored to have her support. It's people like Betsy Gottbaum, the former public advocate for the city of New York, who's on board and has been helping in a huge way. People like Assemblyman Denny Farrell, the chair of Ways and Means, the former state chair.
Right.
The chairperson of the Black and Hispanic Caucus, Kareem Kamara, he's on board. We're about to announce, Congressman Gregory Meeks and a number of other elected officials from Queens. It's people across the city of New York who are saying, we want to move in a different direction. We believe that Bill Thompson is the right person for New York City. He'll represent all New Yorkers. He'll make sure that when it comes to education and crime, that we're going to continue to have, move this city in the right direction. So I'm honored. People are getting on board each and every day. The endorsement recently of the Bronx Democratic Party, they're on board. So I'm feeling great about the direction of things.
Good, good. Well, what about President Obama?
And the president's not going to get involved in a Democratic primary when you have Democrats, who are kind of competing against each other.
Okay, so
I think he
after
would wait.
September.
Exactly. He's going to wait until the November election.
Right. So what is your opinion about the other candidates? Who is like...
The one thing about it, and a number of ways, there are people that I've worked with in different times, but it is less about, the one thing I've tried to always say to people, it is less about flaws of other candidates,
Right.
and more that I believe that I'm the best candidate, the best person, given my background in
Right.
education, given my background as the chief financial officer for the city of New York, experience as deputy borough president in Brooklyn, working for a congressman, my experience in the private sector, on the municipal finance side, all of those things together, I believe it makes me the best qualified person, the person with the strongest vision to lead the city of New York.
Well, we definitely, believe that here.
Thank you, Raj. Thank you.
And I wanted to also ask you, like, our community is obviously all from South Asia, and it includes India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Caribbean islands, some of them. So what is your opinion about that? And if you're, in Mayor Thompson's administration, how would you include them as part of your administration?
Well, I think the South Asian community is a huge part of the city of New York,
Right.
and a growing part.
Right.
If you look, they've added from the countries and islands, and they've added a vibrancy and energy to the city of New York
Right.
that has made us better, that has revitalized communities across the city of New York, and that I believe is going to continue to get stronger and better as we move along. I think that, people from the South Asian community should expect to see a Thompson administration that is diverse, that is reflective of what the city of New York is, and what the city of New York looks like. It's something I've always believed in. When I was comptroller, I had a diverse group of people who were my top deputies, who worked for, who came from all communities in the city of New York. I'd expect the same thing as mayor, that the deputy mayors, commissioners, assistant commissioners, and others are reflective of what the city of New York is.
Right.
People should expect to see that from me, as well as they should expect to see opportunity for all communities come out of the city of New York. That's what, as I said, the South Asian community is a growing and strong part of the city of New York. It's going to be even stronger, and they should be reflected within the government of the city of New York.
Great, and many of them are business people also, and looking to do business with the city. And when you say that increasing minority share from 3 to 20%, that's music to our ears.
It starts at the top again.
Yeah,
It's a
yes,
question of
yes.
what the mayor believes in. That's what I believe in. And I
Right,
think
yeah.
that people should expect, not hope for, should expect to see that from a Thompson administration.
What is your final message to the viewers of the show?
Well, I just think that this year in New York City, 2013, it is a year of decision and direction for the city of New York.
Right.
What direction are we going to go in? Are we going to continue to go down the same path that we've been going down? That has left a number of people out, that has left working class New Yorkers out. Are we going to go down a different direction? I believe I represent that different direction. Someone who understands all the people of the city of New York, who realizes that New York City is comprised of 5 boroughs, who will be a mayor who represents all the people in the city of New York for the first time in years, who realizes that our education system needs improvement dramatically, who realizes that public safety is important. I will work to keep the city of New York safe and strong. It's a year that, that I think that people who understand my background, and if they don't, they'll get to hear more about it, will realize that I'm the best person, the best qualified person, the best person to lead the city of New York. And I would say to people, come and join us. Come to my website, BillThompsonForMayor.com. That's BillThompsonForMayor.com. Take a look at what's there. It's going to continue to grow, more content each and every day. I'd say to people, come and join this campaign. Help to change the direction of the city of New York. That's what I'd say to people right now.
And if anyone wants to volunteer, they can also come to the website and
website, you can volunteer, you can get information, you can contribute, you can do a number of things, but you definitely can volunteer. And that's what I would say to people. Come and join us, volunteer, help to make New York City a different city and a city for everybody.
Well, we want to wish you lots of luck.
Thank you, Raj. I appreciate it. I appreciate the time.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, you can email me at rajmitv@gmail.com. That's again rajmitv@gmail.com. If you would like to watch our prior shows, you can go on youtube.com/Infosys International. That is youtube.com/Infosys International. Until next time, have a great week. Thank you.
Thank you.